I just really learned to just go with the flow. It's going to be fine. And so, all right. So we're going to go through winning with sellers today. Welcome, by the way, Stacy. I'm not sure if anybody else is on, but welcome. Glad that you're on. So yeah, we're focused on listings today, and really we're going to talk about some tools. Some of you may already have them put together, others do not, like your listing presentation, your pre-listing presentation, your conversation, your qualification, lead qualification forms and things like that. So you want to make sure, like when we finish here, set a deadline for yourself and go like, if you don't have these set up, like by this date, I'm going to have them set up, and just build it right in. Because the cool part is once you got these completed, they're done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And then from there, it's just practice, 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 practice. So we used to always do that in the mornings. We would just run through our listing presentation. We used to do a lot of theater in my family. So you just run your lines like ridiculous. You know, you're not giving it any emotion. You're just going through and just running through your lines as fast as you can. And then you slow it down, and then you come back and give the inflection and give the pauses and give the drama, if you will. So that's going to be the key, is like to be a really successful listing agent. You just want to practice that over and over and over and over and over. I suggest getting a accountability partner that you can do it with. And then I would switch. I would run it for a couple of weeks, and then I would switch and get another partner that you could do it at least a couple of times a week. And then the beauty of that is, in communication, we have to be able to read somebody else. We have to be able to learn to read their energy, and read their body language, read their inflection, you know. But if you don't have your presentation down, that you feel really comfortable presenting, you're always looking like, is next. So you're really not paying attention. You're really not hearing what the client. So this works buyers, sellers, anybody. But once you get really comfortable with it, then you're able to focus on them. We talk about the DISC, right? The 4 different personality types. So you're looking for that. You're discovering, like, is this guy high D? Is this person a high C? I need to get into the weeds a little bit, the high C, and give them more information. The high D is like, they just want to, can you sell my house? Like, you better move really fast if you're talking to a high D. So one of the earlier lessons we talked about that of just mirroring and matching clients. They just want to know, can you sell my house? How fast can you sell it? And what's it going to sell for?
Right. I don't know any of them.
Yeah, there's like convinced that honestly that that kind of meeting is very different than somebody that comes in that's super analytical and they want all the stats and they need to really feel comfortable. High D will make a decision really quick, either for you or against you. And a high C, I'm just taking the two ends, but the high C is slower. They don't want to be wrong, so they're very careful with their words. And if you take a high D, it's very easy to go, so what you're saying is, and we want to finish their sentences. We want to correct them and help them. We're saying that we can do, because what'll happen is they'll shut down. And then the next time you're like, okay, do you have any questions? And they're like, no, because they don't want to be cut off like that. It's embarrassed them. They're masking it. So we got to get really clear on who they are and who we are, and be comfortable being uncomfortable. So for me, when I'm talking to a C, I literally, you'll see me, I'll go, "Hmm?" And I listen with my mouth covered. I'm literally covering my mouth. I'm sitting here like this. I want to jump in. It's like nails on a chalkboard to me when somebody's going, well, I think that probably, I'm like, and I just got to calm myself and go. And so, yeah, that's what they call the golden rule, is do unto others as you would have done unto you. And the platinum rule is do unto others as they would have done unto them. Otherwise, speak their language. So if you got that high D and he's just like boop, 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 running through it, match that and keep up with them. This should have been turned off. I don't know why it is turned off. So I want to make sure it's.
Is that on your emergency list?
I don't think, no, it was a number I didn't recognize, but yeah, you're right.
Because
No,
mine's
it's silenced. I don't know what it's doing that. Anyway, I just want to drive that point home is once you have, if you don't already have it, your listing presentation set up, just go over it and over it and over it, depending on where you're at in your career. I would do it every day, you know, for a couple of weeks, and just so that you can get that where you don't have to think about it. Somebody interrupts you and asks a question, you're not like, that's not in my script here. So that way you can pay attention to somebody. And I won't go into this much today, but when we listen with our ears, but we hear in spirit. We literally hear in vibration. So you could be paid if you're really in tune to that and you get to a really calm state when you're going through it, and that calm state and that confidence comes through that practice over and over. You sit down, but you'll feel it. And everybody has, where you're sitting there talking to somebody and something just shifted. You can feel that in a room, like the energy just changed. And I'll be sitting with a client and I'll notice that, like, you can feel a strong energy shift. And I'm like, something just happened. I address it. I'm like, okay, something shifted here. Can you tell me what just happened? So I might have asked them a question. Could have been about the commission. It could have been about our marketing. It could have been about anything.
Where they're moving next.
Where they're moving next, yes.
And they don't agree. That's
right. So that's a great example. Yeah. Yeah. So all of a sudden but I'm not a mind reader. So I don't know when I'm talking about where they're moving next and spouses aren't in agreement or whatever, and the energy shifts. I could make a guess and go, oh, they are not on the same page, or, oh, they're whatever. I just ask them. And it's a clear way to just find out exactly where they're at, and they'll appreciate it. Like something just shifted. And it may have nothing to do, they're like, oh, I'm sorry. You were talking about moving I'm sorry. It just made me think of my sister, and all of a sudden, and they just went off on a little journey on their own. So just keep that in mind as you study and get prepared. You have the ability to be a really good listener. And to me, that's one of the most important skills that we can have in this business and in life in general, is just being a really good listener, paying attention to somebody. And the listing's all about them. It's not about us. So real quick, and you guys online, you can feel free and just unmute, jump in at any time. How many of you here have taken a listing?
When you say take it, as in
Signed a contract, signed a
not
list.
took a listing from another agent.
Let's get clear on these words. You're exactly right. How many of you stole a listing from somebody else?
You should ask who wants to admit
Who has a signed agreement that they've either taken?
people.
Who has earned a list?
There,
Yes,
who is?
yes, yes.
Yes, Melinda has. I know Stacy has. And obviously you have. And you have not recently, but not recently, but you have. Okay.
You have to ask a better question.
So everybody is in a little bit different place. Some of you have taken a listing, but you're newer, and some of you have been doing this for years, and everybody can learn. So we're going to go through, we're going to kind of move through this information. I'm not good at following directions real well. So when I'll follow the script, and there's some things to write in here, but I'm okay jumping off. If you've got something that you want to ask, just jump in, interrupt as we go through it. So, all right. So this is where we're at. Congratulations to you guys that have really stuck with this. So we're 3/4 of the way through, a little bit further than that. This part really hits. It's all about the transaction, winning with buyers, or excuse me, winning with sellers. The next one is working with buyers.
Buyers and sellers.
Yeah, that's in the way. And then,
Make offer.
huh?
Make and negotiate. offer.
Make and negotiate offers, get the close, and then the future plan. So we're in the final stretch here. So this is just what we're going to go over today. We have 3 pieces of information that we're trying to manage up here. So forgive me. So Gary Keller says why leads are vital to your sales business. Seller listings are critical to the ability to build it to its highest level with the lowest cost and the highest net. Why do you think that is so?
What's the best use of time?
Mhm.
It also generates its own, it's a leverage tool for generating more, like you get more off of being able to leverage those listings into more listings and more
Absolutely.
buyers.
Yes. Yes, good. You guys that are online, go ahead and speak up, and then here in the room, go ahead and speak up a little bit. Is if we're in a bigger room, just so that they can hear as well. Yeah, so go ahead and those are okay. So we're on page 3, so 15.3. Who we covered this already in the buyer side, same idea is, especially in this market, the people that you want to work with are the qualified buyers. Otherwise, we end up wasting tons of time. The only difference I would say on that is if you're a newer agent, I'd probably go ahead and go on them and be like, no pressure. You know, if I don't get this listing, that's okay. I'm gonna, you know, if they're a C buyer or a C seller, you know, I'm gonna sell in a year. I'll go do the presentation. It's a live person. It's a real person. Get in front of them. You get to experience the questions, objections, and then just take notes. Like, didn't have the answer to that, you know, or no, oh, I should have brought this document. So, what would you say with an A qualified seller? You got able, ready, and willing. What is that to you? What does able mean?
They're on title, able to make the decision to sell that property.
That's right. Grandma or grandpa may be on that property. So, you know, there might be a spouse that's ticked off and they're going through a divorce and they're, you know, and it's like, you can't just sell that property. So yeah, that would be able. They have clear title. They have the ability to sell. And depending on equity, you know, some people are losing money on their house, not so much today, but they could if they took out a big second on their house or something. So yeah, so that they either can sell and earn money, or they have the ability to get out of that house and take the loss. So it is with some people is when I sold my house, I bought right at the top of 2007, right before the market crashed. I bought at the very top. And then whenever I sold, I was like, I wanted to get out of that house. And I took a little haircut just to get out of it. I was like, that's fine. I'm good with that. So ready? What's a ready seller?
Ready to sign the listing agreement,
Yep.
ready to move forward, order photos.
Yeah.
Have some place to go.
They have some place to go, or they have a have a plan. Exactly. Yep. Took a job, moving to Texas. I'm ready. I'm in position to make my move. I have all the ability to do it. And repairs or anything like that needs to happen to the property, they're ready to take care of those things. They're ready to get it on the market. They're within 15 days, 14 days is what it says here. We're there within 14 days, like we're ready to pull the trigger. So maybe during those 14 days, we're helping them prep and then willing. So obviously willing is we're ready to go. We want to, and we're looking for an agent. So we just talked about this a little bit, but we've got leads, listings, coverage, which is core book, which is, well, let me ask you this. If you had a choice, $500,000 client and pre-approved buyer for $500,000, or I've got somebody with a listing for $500,000, which one would you choose to work with? The listing?
Listing leads to buyers too, so it's kind of a compounded approach, right?
Yes.
Taking both.
You're taking both. Okay.
I know that wasn't what you were looking.
Yeah, but I expected that out of you. My you're like, why do I have to choose?
Yeah.
I love that. My kids used to say that. Why can't we just have both? Can't we have our cake and eat it too?
Lots of opportunity.
Yeah.
So we've got our leads, and the listing is a huge part of the leverage because, as you guys said, and we're going to talk about here on the next sheet, which is so now I'm on page 4. So when you look at the listing, so first one here is listings mean more marketing opportunity, right? So what does that mean to you guys? What's the marketing opportunities it gives you?
Well, you can get that in front of sellers, other sellers in the neighborhood. You can get open houses out of that.
Yes,
People walking in.
yes,
You can publicize it everywhere. Like anything that you can think of, social media or whatever.
yes,
And all of that gets awareness.
yes. So by taking that listing, all of that, some of it you're going to pay for, but a lot of it is free. You get to host an open house and kick it out there on social media, kick it out to your database. Hey, we're doing an open house. Hey, we just took a new listing. I got my sign in the front yard with your phone number on there so that people can reach out directly to you. It's a great reason to call your database. Hey, I just have a new listing. Anybody that live in this beautiful neighborhood that has land or whatever it is. It just opens up so many doors. It goes out and syndicates. I don't even know the number now. Back when I was selling heavily, it was like it syndicated out to like 400 different sites. I bet it's 1,000 now, but 400 minimum. It's going to blast out, syndicate out to all these different sites. People are going to click on it. So yes, you have all these lead gen opportunities. You have more control of your time. So number 2. I mean, honestly, how many buyers do you think you can work with, like active buyers at a single time where you're going out showing them properties and going to how many do you think you can work with at a time?
Kind of depends on what they're looking for, how you're going about it. I mean, I know I can.
Okay, fair. 4.
I can do 5 or 6.
You can do 5 or
Depending on
6.
where they're at.
Yeah. So those are all factors. Am I driving up to Portland? Am I driving over to the coast? Am I driving over to Sweet Home? Where's it coming from? So Yeah, all those things factor in. But the reality is, how many listings can you manage at one time?
And the other
More.
question,
More?
and that really ultimately where you're going is at the end of the day, you can do way more listings than buyers.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. The bottom line is it is leveraging your time at a, you have more on the front end, right? Where I'm going in, getting it set up, getting it staged, whatever needs to happen, getting the photos, getting the marketing materials up. Once you're done, now you're over at the coast going, yeah, you can show the house. Yeah, send me that offer. I'll look at it when I'm on the beach.
Yeah. Yes.
I just think of that. I mean, that's how I did. What I did when, and I was a single agent at this time, I put my level at 10. So that was my goal, was 10. And I also communicated that as part of my presentation was I only take 10 listings at a time. So if I was at 9, or maybe I'm already at 10, I would simply say, to serve you at the highest level, I feel comfortable up to 10 listings. I can serve those clients at a very, very high level, so I don't go above that. I actually have 10 right now, so it's a little bit of a takeaway. I actually have 10 right now, but I got 2 of them closing this next week, so I feel really comfortable going ahead and taking another listing. That's position, right? They're like leaning into you. I was taught early,
You don't chase.
don't chase. I was trying to think of how my dad said it was, wait to kiss her before she leans into you. So it's this idea of like, I'm not forcing this, but you cause people to lean in, and when there's a little bit of a takeaway, kind of like, I'm going to decide by the time we get into this, if we're a good fit to work together. I'm not just like, everything. I'm just trying to talk them into working with me. Trust me, people can feel that, and it feels desperate, and it reeks of commission breath. So part of going over that presentation, getting real clear with it, is the confidence that builds, because you're going to come up. We're talking about taking listings, but let me add, there are some listings you don't want to take. And you'll learn if you're newer, like my gut was telling me, like, don't take this. I had a guy that just kept talking about 24/7, that you've got to be available 24/7. If anybody calls at 10 o'clock at night, you got to be taking that call. And I'm like, this isn't a good fit for me. I got up, shook the guy's hand, and said, we're not a good fit. And it would usually be about 1, maybe 2 a year that they're just not a good fit. And we got to have the gumption to be able to go, I'm not going to work with those. Because if you have 10 clients and 9 of them are just like, they love you, they take your advice, they do what you're asking, they're timely, they're considerate. And then you got this one, and they call you 15 times a day. You've had one? Yes. I know. If you've been in the business for a while, you've had that person, and you're like, it comes and your whole gut goes, oh, I'll let it go to voicemail. So I think if you learn early on, like, these people don't line up with your values, it's okay to refer them off to another agent or just choose to not work with them. So seller listings maximize your per hour compensation. You're going to spend a lot less time working on that listing than you are on that buyer. That's why you can manage a lot more listings. Volume. Honestly, they put that in here. I don't know what they mean. Why did they say volume? I guess it is more volume, because if you get a listing, or when you get a listing, you're typically, if you do it correctly, you're going to end up this way. It says leads, listings, leverage is, if done properly, you're going to end up with 2 more pieces of business as a result of that. Because you got all that advertising that is out there. You got people calling in because they just call straight onto off the sign. And now you have an opportunity to convert that person if they're not already, committed to another agent. Um, yeah, so you got the opportunity to do the open houses like you guys talked about already, all the other advertising and things like that. So you probably end up as a result is one, you have the possibility if I'm taking that listing, it's about a 50% chance that they're going to be buying another property. So that's two pieces of business because of that listing. Michael, you're going to get the other. You're going to get the buy side as well. You got to remember this also. If they're selling here with you and they're moving to Texas or Florida or California or wherever they're going, you got to do it really early on. When you first talk to them is get a referral for them. This is the easiest earned money that there is. And we were running about 30% of our income was coming from referrals like that. So whether it's somebody's looking at listing their house in Texas, that's a friend of yours, or maybe they're on Facebook, get them into your database, communicate with them, because you can still help them, get on the phone with them, and then connect them with another agent. If you're taking their listing here, are you planning to buy another house right away when you get into Texas? Yes. Okay, great. I will, as part of my service, I will provide you with a great option. I'll interview some agents and make sure we have a good fit for you and get them connected as soon as possible. Because if you don't, they're going to be Googling, they're going to be on Zillow, they're going to be on all these different sites, and all of a sudden they're going to connect with a good agent or they're going to connect with an agent that's going to get them under a buyer contract. So, okay. All right, let me move on. Okay, so this is just the cycle. So of the sell, like I've got somebody that wants to list their house. Either they've called me or I've reached them, or it's a for sale by owner or somebody in your database. You got to convert that, and by that I mean set the appointment. You got it. That's the step. Get the appointment set. The second part of it is the pre-listing. So we're going to talk about that here in a minute. This packet that you want to go before you actually get to the appointment. We call that a pre-listing packet. And then third, we're going to talk about the listing consultation. So what does that look like to be in the house, go through that listing consultation with them. And then these last 4, 5, 6, and 7, those are going to be covered over the next couple of sessions. So let me, again, I'm not following along on my notes. That just doesn't work good for me. Pretty basic things that we covered, but they're extremely important. So let me pause. My philosophy when I'm teaching is every time we get to these ahas, I'm looking for 3 ahas. Okay. So what's some ahas? Those of you that are online, you can jump in. Maybe it's something that you already knew, something was reinforced, something new that you picked up on. What's an aha?
You don't have to take every listing and you don't have to represent everybody.
I love that, Melinda. Yes, it's a big point. It's one of the big points of being self-employed in real estate is like, I don't have to, you're at a job. You're like, I don't like the guy that's in the cubicle beside me, but I can choose who I'm going to work with. So good job. Okay, go ahead, finish, Billy.
Early on in the conversation, they're moving out of state. I've had missed opportunities because not doing referrals and just kind of being hesitant as far as doing that. So I've missed opportunities and I've helped them get in to the next state, but I haven't done the referral program. So that's missed opportunities that I need to be more aware of at the front end of the conversation early to get ahead of it. So
it's a big point. Trust me, when you get your first check back, it'll strengthen that belief really, really quickly. I remember I never realized how pricey purses could be. I mean, when we were young, yeah, like handbag purses, it was like when we were younger, you know, my wife and I went to Walmart, we bought an $8 purse and, you know, she was good. Well, then she started buying these other purses that are more like $500, $600, $700, $800 purses. I'm like, it's so expensive, but she works hard and she deserves it and she likes it. So, but anyway, she calls me one day and she goes, she had just got a check. She goes, hey, I just got $3,500. Came in, she made a referral, filled out one sheet. We get a $3,500 check. So my wife's strategy is, hey, we just got $3,500. I'm like, cool, good job. And she's like, and I just bought a $600 purse. I'm like, good job, baby. So, yeah, it's, I would factor it in, make it part of your goal, even to like make that part of your business plan, like 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever your number is. And the way that you do that is you just get everybody in your database and you tag them as out of the area. So you can send a monthly newsletter to them that's different than what you're sending to the people here locally. Like, if you need help, I can help you. I don't care if you're in Texas or Florida or anywhere else, I can help you. You get on that quick call, quick figure out what they want, need, and then get them referred off. So make sure you get that form filled out.
Hey, Lionel?
One page. Yes.
On that same note, like even people that are working with other agents, a lot of times those other agents are not referring them out. And so like just having that conversation, even if they have somebody selling their house here, say, hey, where are you moving? Oh, you're moving to Texas. Are you working with somebody there already? And I have sent sellers that are selling with somebody else to an agent and got a referral fee that I'm not even working with here. So it's good to ask everybody.
Yes, that's a really good point. We got to really open up our mind to these opportunities. So that's a great point. All right, we got 3. Oops. We got 3 ahas. So thank you guys. Oh, what happened? My screen went. It shouldn't be that different, but I run a Mac and this one seems totally different. Okay. Yeah. Hey, Madison. Can you help when you get a chance? Yeah. All right, quick break, everyone. Everybody's quick. So this is just going to sleep, or how do I wake that up? Or what's happening there? It's just did it disconnect?
Yeah, but where did you?
Oh, there it goes. Nice. Okay, transfers over. You lay those across. Yeah, just go ahead. Look across.
What?
Oh, I was just going to move those pictures so that they don't cover the screen. You can go ahead and do slideshow, and then we can move that to the top. Oh,
Okay. That should be good.
okay. All right. So I'd like to move a little faster. Okay, so this I want to make sure that I'm following along with you guys here. Okay. There it is. Okay, so these are just some key things that you want to make sure is converting those A sellers is respond right away to their inquiries. This is extremely important, and this is going to sound really silly to you, probably. But I remember a guy years ago, and he gets a lead that comes in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, awesome. So did you follow up with him? He's like, oh no. I always give it a day or two. And I'm like, why? And he's like, positioning. I walked around like this. Positioning. Showing them who's in charge.
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah. And somebody else is getting the listing. But that was his belief, was like, I don't need it. But right now, what do you think the response time should be?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Yeah, even shorter than that, it seems crazy. But when people are like, when somebody clicks into a web, if you're in a lead process, a lead program, and that lead pops in, they say 3 to 5 minutes of responding to that, because they're going on and they're filling something out. And then all of a sudden they're filling it out for somebody else as well. They're just getting information. So I pick up the phone right then. And sometimes through some of my programs, somebody would click in and then I would call them right on the spot and they would go, hey, that's so weird. I'm actually on your site right now. I'm like,
Yes, I know.
yeah, I know. Pretty cool, huh? People are like, I mean, we live in an AI world now, so people aren't freaked out about that, but they appreciate it. Like, wow, that was responsive. And what we're doing is we're communicating early on, like, this is how I respond. This is how I take care of my clients. We're teaching them who we are and what qualities that we have. So make sure that whenever you get this contact, that you're getting all the information that you need. So you're getting your name, phone number, email. I was talking to somebody here a while back and they missed the name and the phone number and the email. They missed it all. But this person literally walked out and said, they were listing the house across the street and they came walking across and said, hey, so how much did that sell for? I mean, talk about a hot lead, right? Oh my gosh, how much did that house sell for? Yeah, we live over here and we're thinking about moving as well. But again, getting really clear with and confident with yourself is stop what you're doing. You have a hot lead right in front of you. The good part is this person went back and said, go back, have the conversation. They went back and it was beautiful and then they're a little bit further out, but they're going to get the listing. So, but if you don't get their contact, you're standing in line and you got your tag on, Michael, and somebody says, oh, you're in real estate. And you get a 2-minute conversation while you're standing in line with somebody. So you can get to the point and go, you know what, let me send you some information. This will be really beneficial for you. What's the best email to send that to? Look down or start typing it into your phone. What's the best email? They'll give it to you. And then always ask the next question. They've already given you the email. Okay, and then I use that phrasing. Now, what's the best phone number for you?
In case that needs to.
Yes, even better. Yeah, in case I misdirected or something, what's the best cell phone or number that I can reach you on? They'll give it to you or they'll just tell you no. What have you lost if they tell you no? But now you've got that contact info. And then determine their motivation so that you can speak to it. What do we mean by their motivation?
That's what they want to sell.
Okay. That could be part of the motivation is how soon do they want to sell?
What do they want to buy?
What are they wanting to buy? Why are they selling? Is it different if somebody's motivation is, I took a job in Texas and I need to enroll my kids by the end of September.
Yeah.
So we got to sell this right away. Is that very different than somebody else going, well, I mean, if it sells, it sells, I know it says it's worth 450, but if I put it on 5, if I could get 5 for it, I would sell it. Totally different motivations, right? So, and what they're saying is so that you can speak to it. The key is in converting somebody is figuring out what their need, desire, what their motivation is, and then talking about them. Why are you moving to Florida? What's so important about Florida to you? Well, the rest of my family lives there. Oh, okay. So, and then all of a sudden, why is it important for you to be around family? That might sound like a silly question, but it's a great question. What's important to you about being around your family? I don't want to miss out. My grandkids are growing up and, I only get to see them over Facebook. And now when you talk to them about their listing, you're talking about getting them to Florida so that they can be around their kids and grandkids and enjoy. That's motivation. That's speaking to the motivation. When you ask all those questions, you got to get right down to that point so that you can figure out what's the most important thing to these guys about this move. And then you keep driving back to that, because for those of you that haven't been in Bold, and it's coming up, have you been to Bold?
Yes.
Okay. So you probably remember this thing. Have you been to Bold?
Nope.
Not yet. Okay.
I'm going to that one.
Good.
They've revamped it though, haven't been there since.
Yeah, it's a little different for sure. Write this down. Logic makes us think. Emotion makes us act or causes us to act. So you can have, when you get somebody's emotion, the emotion is tied to that motivation. That motivation means something. Them being around their grandkids or living in a state that they feel more aligned with or whatever it is. When you tie into that and then you talk about it, that is going to drive them. So we can take all the numbers, and formulate everything out there. Just logic. It's like, these are the numbers. This is what it would take to get your house sold. This is how much it's going to cost. This is how long it's going to take. Blah, blah, blah. But you got to tie into their emotion through the story, through the motivation. So make sure that keep coming back to that every time. So, so these are some numbers that what sellers want most in their agent. These are in your guide on page 6. So you can see it kind of goes from helping price as number 1, helping seller to market their home, help them with specific time frames, and then staging, helping them fix it up. And then the other, I think, is 27% of other things, which is probably paperwork, legalities, getting the deal closed, but they don't state those. So you want to be aware of that and talk to them about that. I would always ask them, like, what's the most important thing about the agent that you hire? I want to make sure they know the market. I want to make sure. So, but if you ask those questions up front, then later I get to come back and address those. I don't address them. I think of it as, whenever you're doing these presentations, like a private detective. The private detective doesn't ask the question and then immediately they just keep gathering that information. And that's what we're doing through this pre-list and these conversations is we're gathering the information and then we're going to come back and be able to speak to it. That is a great salesperson. A great salesperson is figure out what somebody wants and then match it up with that product. Like if I could figure out what's should not be coming through. Well, it is definitely on Do Not Disturb. Right. I don't know how those are coming through. Okay. So what sellers want most from their agent And you're just speaking to those. If you know that that is real, then you're speaking and addressing those issues up front is what you're doing, knowing that that's important to them. So helping the house be competitively priced. When I go through my listing presentation, I'm going to go, I study the market at a very deep level. I could just say, hey, I look on the MLS and I pull these stats. Or it's how you say it. And if you say, I study the market at a very deep level, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these comparables together, and I'm going to pull all of the sold properties within the last 6 months that fit your criteria. I am going to look at any that the market rejected, terminated. It's a good word, rejected. Just because, like, I don't want my house to be rejected. And then we're going to look at all the active ones that are comparable to your house as well. By saying that, and not just saying, hey, I'm going to do a CMA on your property, by giving that definition, you painted a much bigger picture, and it's adding value. Like, wow, they're going to put this really nice book together for me. Help the seller market their home. So now we're going to talk about marketing. To sell within a specific time frame. That's important. I need to be to Texas by this time. So we're going to address all those things. So all of this, so now I'm on, if you're following along on page 7, is you want to build confidence. And that's what you're doing. When you've done your homework up front, you're polished with your presentation, you come in, by the way, in this, building confidence. Confidence doesn't mean knowing the answer to everything. Like, if you're not that far along in the industry, you don't have to feel like you got to know anything and get stressed out. I used to get stressed out about that. Like, what if they ask me a question that I don't know? Anybody have that? No, you're good.
No, you may not know it, but it's just a matter of follow up and find the answer, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't as confident whenever I started, and I'm like concerned, like, oh, what if they ask me about this? What if they ask me about this? And then I'm like, once I got some experience, I'm like, I feel very comfortable going, oh, that's interesting. I'm not quite sure on that, and I'm going to get you the answer. It's completely, that's not like you have to have every single answer to everything. So be okay saying, that's a great question. Let me check on that, and I'll get back to you. They're going to be completely happy with that. I'm not going to go over these. They've got these 7 close to appointment tactics. But I think it's just, when you close, what you have to just be sure and do is ask. You're asking for the business. And so many people will get to the end, and it's like, sounds odd, but like, you've got to ask them to list with you, to sign the document. So however that feels to you, the way that I typically do it is, and I'll cover this here in just a minute, but you get to the end of it and like, Billy, do you have, okay, so I went through all of this. Do you have any additional questions or anything that's of importance to you before we move on?
Nope.
Okay, great. So as long as you don't have any other questions, and of course I'll answer those as we go through the process. I'm assuming it as we go through the process. And so basically all we need to do is go ahead and sign the paperwork. And then we're going to start getting the pictures and the marketing all in place and get you on your way to Florida so you can hang out with those grandkids more. How does that sound? That's a close.
So you don't present it as, can I get your blessing? Or you don't present it as, hey, are you good with the contract and the terms? You more or less stay away from that terminology and just word it differently.
Yeah, because I've gone over all of that with them already. So my is asking, do you have any additional questions? Have I answered all your questions? Is there anything else that is of concern to you or something like that? I don't use that word of concern, but I just say, is there any additional questions before we move on? I'm setting that in their mind. They're going, nope, there's no additional questions. Great. And at that point, I'm going for signing the document. And when I close, I got all these different ones here, but for me, that's the typical for me is there's no additional questions. all we need to do is fill out the paperwork and get you on your way to, and then be quiet. They're like, yeah, okay. And if not, then that's where we're going to come into this next part is when a question is asked, it says on page 7, answer. When an objection comes up, address it. So there's a difference. When somebody's asking you a question, we're answering that question, but you can tell, is this an objection? So an objection might be like, it's different if somebody asks a question and they say, the commission 6%, and they say, can you go less than that? That's a question. That's not necessarily an objection. So that's what they're trying to get across here is the difference between that. That's just a question. And I'm like, no. That's my answer is nope. Yeah, it's just 6%. Yeah, and then I give a little explanation to that. Yep, 3% of that's going to go to the buyer's agent, 3% of that's going to come to me, and then it gets split up. So yeah, it's a 6%. Any other questions? That's how I deal with that. But an objection might be, well, we need to think about it. Well, we're going to interview another agent, so we don't. Those are objections. So when he says address it, just know the difference between a question and what I found was so important about this is we can say way too much if we're not careful. All of a sudden, they asked a simple question and we brought out all kinds of extra information that they did not, and we've confused them. When it can be answered with a yes or no, just no. Yep, absolutely. I'm going to do that. Yep, I'm going to follow up with you every Friday. Yep, but if I need to interview another agent, that's an objection, and then we can deal with that. By the way, in your manual, in the very back of it, it's got all kinds of scripts and dialogues and stuff back there. So just know that right at the back of it, part of this listing presentation, all of that's in there in the appendix back there. So, okay, I need to get to, okay.
So can you go over a couple of objections of how you handle it? Because that's something I think that'll separate us as some of us are newer agents where it's like, how do you leave that window open to not leave there without a signed contract? Like you stated in one of the trainings I was a part of, I asked the question, what's the number one reason why agents don't get the listing? And they said 90% of the times they never asked.
That is mind-boggling, and that's the reason I was making that point. Like, you got to close. You've got to. All closing is an agreement. We're going to come to an agreement that we're going to work together, but you're not going to get that if you don't ask. Like, you're not going to get the date unless you literally ask her to go on a date with you, right? So, for example, what's the objection that you're referring to?
So I'm just envisioning, kind of hypothetically thinking, all right, the assumption is they want to interview other agents without knowing that. We do the listing presentation, everything's going good, you got a good mesh, you think they're going to be a good fit. You ask the question, do you have any additional questions before we move on? At that point, you pull out listing paperwork, you say, so here's the contract that you have to sign, or here's the listing paperwork that we need to sign. How would you venture through that, like strategically without saying too much, and then preparing for them to go, hold on, whoa, I don't know if we're agreeing to anything tonight. Like, we want to think on it, or we want to interview another. What are some of the objections that we counteract that to make a decision there, but not at one point too far?
Yeah, so that's kind of a whole class on itself, but let me kind of hit what you're talking about right there is, one is the pre-listing pack, and the listing pack is, we're going to go over those here in just a moment, is designed to answer as many questions up front as possible. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. And when we go through that listing, knowing these areas that are important to the sellers, we're going to address as many issues preemptively as possible. And a lot of times when I get to that end and I'm like, do you have any additional questions before we move on? It's a good phrase, by the way. I would use that one because it's very assumptive. Do you have any questions before you move on? I'm giving them that opportunity there. Then I'm assuming I'm just assuming that if they don't have any additional questions, I'm just going to ask the question. Great. Now all we need to do is fill out the paperwork, go through that whole spiel, and then so if it comes up and says, well, I want to interview with another agent, I'm going to address my presentation. I'm going to say, okay, so what is it? Do you feel comfortable with me? Everything that I've shared with you, our marketing plan, our comps, everything like this, do you feel comfortable with me? I want to establish that. And once I get that on the table, they're like, no, we feel really good with you, but we just talked to this other agent and we told him that we would interview with him as well. So I just feel like it's important for us to go ahead and hold that appointment. I'm not taking the chance that they're going to get that appointment and then they're going to be a better closer than I am, and they're going to close it and they're going to go, well, I already met with Lionel, so yeah, we're going to go ahead and list with you. Because the person that's in front of them, if they created the emotion, they're probably the one that's getting the list. So yeah, the way that I address that is, okay, so if you don't mind, who's the other agent that you're talking about? And they tell me somebody over at some other company, whatever. Or it could be a Keller Williams agents as well, because we're competing against each other with these listings. And I say, you feel comfortable with me? Yes. What I'm hearing you say is that you just feel an obligation to that other agent because you told them that you would. And they're like, yeah. And I say, you know what? This does happen all the time because we got so many different real estate agents. And as long as you feel comfortable with me, and we can go ahead and take the listing today. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and give that other agent a call for you and just let them know that we've already taken the listing, and they still have an opportunity to bring the buyer. Now we've created some win within that. And it really sucks to be that agent that gets that call that says, hey, Lionel, just so you know, we just took that listing, so you don't need to go to that appointment today at 5 o'clock. Saved you some time. Yeah. Saved you some time. We're excited. Hopefully you can bring a buyer or whatever to it. But that's on that particular topic, Billy, that's how I address that.
Okay.
Is I really don't want to, but if they're dead set and they're like, no, I gave my word, I'm going to have the appointment. And I said, great. So when are you having that? Is there any other agents that you're interviewing? No, just that one. Great. Will you do me a favor? Sure. After you meet with them, will you just agree to talk to me before you sign anything with them? I already know they're committed to what they say they're going to do. So now we put them back in the same boat. So if they come back and say, well, yeah, we really like that other agent, now I have another opportunity to address it. So
what about, the most common one, it seems like the dirtiest move is they promise them way more for the listing than what the data shows, and then they'll do it for less. But what are those two biggest?
You mean another agent undercutting you?
They got a $400,000 CMA.
Okay.
A new listing comes in and they say, oh, you've interviewed another agent, or a new agent comes in, says, oh, you've interviewed another agent. All right. What'd they tell you the house was worth? Well, they told me it was worth 400, yada, yada. Oh, I think this one's worth 500. Oh, instantly. So they're winning them over, even though it's high in the sky, and really there's no data that supports that. And I'm saying that these numbers because that's what I experienced.
Yeah. I just addressed that outright.
And then they did it 5% to 6.
So you come from a construction background, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Billy, you come from a construction background, correct? Yep. So you were a supervisor or general manager or something like that? Yeah.
Supervisor, sales.
Supervisor. Okay. So would you agree that all supervisors are equal in the way that they treat their employees and how they act? Okay. So I know that that's true. Doctors are all not the same. Dentists are not all not the same. And real estate agents are not all the same either. Here's the thing, Billy, I'm going to tell you the truth. And sometimes that hurts, but I'm going to tell you what I believe that this house would sell for. Some agents, they'll price it right at whatever you want, 100,000, even more. Does that help you or hurt you? So I'm going to attack that. I'm just going to go in and, you know, without saying anything about that agent particularly, I'm like, agents can say whatever they want and put whatever price tag on. That doesn't serve anybody. That's going to create frustration for you or for me, you know, and it's not going to help anybody. So that's how I address that. Did I address it?
So, I mean, they may say, well, he can get me $100,000 more, he says. And how I kind of faced it was, what happens in a month when you need to be in Tennessee and you don't have any offers and you're not getting showings, and now you've missed the peak pricing because you're way too high. Now you got to do a drastic price drop, and you've missed those buyers potentially who bought something else.
You handled that really well. That's a great way to handle that.
But it didn't. It took a long time. In the end, I'm getting the listing.
Okay.
But I have to adjust my asking price in the beginning for the first 20 to 30 days, and then they're willing to do a different price drop. So I'm not willing to go up to where he's at. I'm not willing to go down to the fees he's at.
Good.
I'm not. But I'm willing to try in a short window with the agreement that we will be dropping if we don't get offers and a good amount of showings in a short amount of time. Is that?
It's great. And I just remind them, like, I don't agree with that price. This is what I said. I'm gonna put that in writing. Like, this is what I said. It's worth $800,000. If you're wanting to list it at 9, I believe 8 is the high point. So we agreed on 850, but that's still above beyond. So we'll give it the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever that number is. And then we agree to adjust that back. And
Are you about to list this time right now?
Yep.
What's your thought?
The market shifted, and it's a tough time to
Statistically
be able to price.
speaking, when you go too high and then you start dropping, you statistically hit under market rate. So if market rate is 400, let's say that's what it would sell for, and you start too high, and especially in the seasonal market that we're in right now, where we're starting to come down again, you're going to start chasing the market, and then you're going to be outside of even the lowest amount because you're just going to keep going down and down.
So I fully agree with that. And what I don't take overpriced listings, but I do take temporary overpriced listings. And it depends how far off that is. You know, I'm not going to taint my reputation.
So how long do you think it should be?
For me, it's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks or 10 showings. But yeah, I literally get that order change done in advance. Okay, if we don't have an offer within 2 weeks, what we're going to do is automatically do that $50,000 price reduction. Are we in agreement on that? Yes. Okay, we're going to go ahead and pre-fill out that paperwork. That way I don't have to bug you later. And I'm going to get that filled out, and I'm going to date it for those 2 weeks out. And
You tell us just how close we are. We don't have any in the first weekend. We're too low.
so
And these are things I've expressed, but she's just got to bear in mind that with this one agent. And I said, that one agent is going to get leads from this listing, and he can care less if he sells the price, sells the house, what you want to sell that or not. He's not committed to selling your home. It's the advertising, it's everything else that it could lead
Well,
to.
it's getting the listing and then talking her down, and he doesn't care where it's.
Yep.
okay,
I'm trying to statistically tell you you're going to end up with less money.
And I'm going to meet with her again to kind of go over like this is the risk with it again, as we've discussed. But I want to sell your home, but we have to be realistic.
Have you ever
Lionel?
caught a phone-
yeah,
For what?
Have you ever caught a phone night without getting blood?
yes, Melinda.
I was just
Melinda?
gonna ask if anybody uses that chart. It's in any CMA. That's the pyramid chart of how many buyers will see your house. And if you price it, let's say if it's at 800,000.
Melinda, 1 sec. I'm gonna pull that up in just a second. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Because I
share it.
use that when people start arguing to raise the price beyond belief, because you'll
So,
get more
okay,
buyers and they can compete.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that. And as a reminder, that's what's so important about the presentation. Your goal is, they may have some outside questions, but the goal is to address as many questions and know them well enough and to speak to the issues before they actually have to bring it up. That's part of that confidence. By the time you're done, it's not bad if they go, is there any additional questions? And they're like, no, that was thorough. That was great. Bam. There's still going to be those that come up, but that's the idea, is addressing those. And I'll show you on my presentation how I address these up front here in just a second. So just to, see, I'm trying to stay with your guys's. So on page 8, so we've got this whole idea. We talked about this in the very beginning. It's going to stay here with this camera. E to P. You guys remember what that's all about? Not necessarily. These are from the 6 personal perspectives, and the idea is from entrepreneurial to purposeful. So entrepreneurial is like, hey, I'm really natural. I can eat.
Like what?
Yes, eat a P. Not eat a P, but eat to P. So it's going from our natural abilities, like, hey, I can get up and teach a class and I'm fine, to a certain level. And then you step up, you're like, ooh, if I'm going to speak at this level, I really have to step up my game. So I need to change the way I'm doing things. So what he talks about is focus, models, systems, and breakthroughs. So it's really getting purposeful. So that's really what we're talking about today, is be purposeful about your listing presentation, how you show up. So we're going to jump into that here now. So we're going to talk about a pre-listing packet. So does anybody, or has anybody ever done a pre-listing packet? You do? You do now. Okay. Stacy, do you do that? Okay. She might have stepped away. Okay. So on page 9, we're talking about the pre-listing pack goal. So it's to pre-sell. Again, we've been talking about this already, which is just building confidence, answering these questions up front. And before you actually get to your presentation, you've already knocked out maybe half of the concerns or questions that they have. It saves you time because you've already got this information to them, and then it's going to, you've already addressed some of those things. So now you don't need to address them once you get there. And then it states your value. It tells, I think that it, in most cases, so you do a pre-listing packet now on all listings, or the majority?
Yeah, I mean, I did when I was cold calling.
Okay.
Sellers and stuff.
So yeah, I'm going to go through this with you, and what we did. I don't have the whole pre-listing packet right now, but we're going to show you how to build it out. Okay. So again, on page 9, you really want to, oh, I see. They're asking these questions. Will you ask yourself these questions? Will you review it in the listing presentation? Like, is this something I'm going to bring up in the listing presentation? Does it eliminate the need for a listing consultation? I don't think so. Is it a primer for education that you will provide the listing consultation? So look on page 10. So this is the criteria that they have. I'm going to show you something a little bit different that I do. I'm saying this is what Keller Williams is suggesting. And what they're suggesting is it's a 1-page booklet. I would recommend comb binding it. And it might be 8, 10, 12, 20 pages long. So these are some of the things that it's like a listing presentation, but you got a cover page with your contact information, the selling process, general pricing information. This is where Melinda was talking about not pricing it right, how that hurts you. This is a great place for that graph to go. So anyway, there's the list of things that you can put in. Here's the deal. It can be whatever you want in there. These are just suggestions. So put in there whatever works best for you. If you're familiar with Cloud CMA, well, everybody has Cloud CMA. So you can go into Cloud CMA like you're doing a CMA. It will build like all of those things that Melinda, that you were talking about. It's all in there. Those charts, graphs, there's so much information. That's where I would recommend pulling your information. Go through and look at that and go, cool, I'm going to pull this part, leave this part out, and just figure out what's most important to you. Ask yourself those questions. What are the questions they're going to ask? Am I addressing those up front? KCM is another one. Keeping Current Matters is another great program. And they have some great information that you could pull in as part. I did that. Keeping Current Matters puts together the selling packet, and I literally took theirs, and then I just added a few personal pages to myself, and that's what we used. So I'm going to tell you real quick what I do, or what I did, and it's just different, and it's beyond just the pre-listing packet. So we had it hand delivered. So you could, now this one here, you could put that in the mail if it was Monday and you were going to meet them on Friday, you could drop that in the mail and know that it's going to be there on Friday. We always hand delivered ours. So either we did it ourselves, just dropped it off, or we would send a team member. And then for a while, we literally had a courier that would just like come by, pick it up and drop it off. So a book, a little combine with all that information in, drop it off. Great. What I did, we did it two different ways. We created a box. So we had a box and we put our logos and stuff with a sticker on it, and it was sealed up in the bottom with a sticker. And you open that up, and when you opened it up, it had all kinds of, it was like a gift, right? It had that filler cut paper, down at the bottom of it. Now we have things like mugs, Wilson team mugs. So I would put a mug in there. I would put our personalized pins in there. I would sprinkle a little candy in there, and then we would have our pre-listing packet in there. And I added made a video that we wanted them to watch in advance. So we made a really nice little postcard that said, please watch this video prior to our meeting. And then we would just send them straight there. They would click on that, and then it would just be a little 3-minute video of what to expect. So that was one way of doing it. We put it in a box. The other way that we would do it is we would put it in a basket and literally put all that stuff in there. We would put balloons on it and leave it on their front door. And then we would let them know, hey, I left that at your front door. Or if you know where they work, you can have it dropped off at their work. And it's pretty impressive when it shows up and you got this basket with all these little goodies sticking out of it. And somebody comes in and delivers it back to that cubicle or whatever. And they're like, whoa, what's that? Is that from your husband? Is that from your wife? Was that? No, it's this realtor I'm working with. Wow, my realtor never did that for me. That's the idea. That's why we did that, was we wanted to stand out. When I would find out that I'm competing with another agent and I couldn't get past the objection, now I'm sending flowers. It's worth it. I'm like, well, it cost me $50 to send them a nice bouquet of flowers. Hey, I look forward to, and I would write a handwritten note. This is all part of causing myself to stand out. And that's what you want, is just ask yourself, take the ideas that I have, be creative on your own, whatever you think. But at minimum, you want the little packet and you want to deliver that. And I will tell you this, it's going to set you apart from 90%, probably higher. I bet it's not 90. I bet it's not 10% that actually does a pre-listing packet. Yeah.
So we send a cloud CMA with all, pictures of the property, soil reports. Like we try to have all the list pack, everything ready to go, all in one email with all the attachments, and then set up the face-to-face meeting to review it in person. So, but your delivery of this
Hand deliver.
is hand delivered, have it book bound, have it ready to rock and roll. I think it just steps it up and like you said, separates yourself, even though it's a little investment. You don't know if you're getting the listing, but you're sure moving yourself to the top of the pack by showing how serious.
Well, I think what you're doing is great. And yes, it's just different. So I'm not saying that that's right or wrong.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's like the difference between getting an email and getting a handwritten note in the mail that was very personalized. To me, that's the difference. It's just like,
There's so much junk in email now.
yeah. And people, it creates almost it does for me, like not a great feeling about email. But when you get a handwritten note, you're like, what's this for? It's not my birthday. It's not what's,
Yeah.
it just stands out. So anyway, we're not going to go over that much more, but so deliver your, so I'm on page 11 now. So deliver your pre-listing pack on time as promised. If you say, hey, I'm going to have that over there. Honestly, I tried to be a little bit broad, like, hey, we're going to deliver that tomorrow afternoon. That way I've got a window of time, right? So I'm going to drop it off and then confirm the appointment date. So if you're sending that in advance, you want to make sure that you're confirming the appointment, especially if you're driving up to Salem or somewhere further out. I would do it with all of them though, but I would just find out when I talk to them on the phone the first time, hey, are you good with texting? Everybody's not. We think everybody is, but some people that frustrates the heck out of them. So are you okay? Oh yeah, absolutely. Great. So then I'm going to send them a text that next day. Hey, Mackenzie, I look forward to meeting you this afternoon at 4 o'clock. If you have any questions, write those down and I'll be sure to answer all of them. Because if you don't, it may not be that big of a priority to them and they don't show up on you. So, so confirm the time, address and all that. Ensure that all decision makers are there. So this is part of your qualification that they talked about last week or last session is find out. It may not be that it's a spouse. It could be a grandma or somebody else is on the title. So if you're trying to have an appointment and get a decision, if you don't have all decision makers there, you're coming back again. So complete and practice your listing presentation. Make sure that you just go over it and review the lead sheet. So in your session from last time, it's got that pre-qualify sellers. It's got the list right in here on 13.9. So you can go through that and make that your own. Maybe there's additional questions that you want to ask on that, but that's just a good, but in that, so when you're on that phone call, you're getting all that information from them, what's important to them. Now, when you show back up, you got to rebuild that rapport. So we do that by connecting with them emotionally about their motivation, what's important to them. So, and then number 6 is to arrive to the listing presentation in a professional manner. What do you think that means?
On time.
On time.
And prepared.
On time, prepared.
And dressed accordingly.
Thank you. Does it say that? Yes, it does say that. Yeah. I was like, I don't know if it said that, but that matters. That makes all the difference in the world. Like, I think it depends on the type of property that you're doing, but we should look the part depending on the house that we're going to. I remember, Billy, you love this one. I was going on I'm not a farm guy. I'm dealing with all residential housing and luxury houses and stuff like that. And one of our top farm guys at the time, he says, I'm going out to review this property and it's got like 80 acres or something like that. And here I come dressed like this. And I've got my nice shoes on. And, and he looks me up and down and he goes, you going like that? And I'm like, yeah. Profession. He's like, okay. He just didn't even, oh my gosh. And I got out there and that guy's like, all right, well, it goes from here to here. We're going to go ahead and hike up that way. And I'm like, damn, I should have brought my boots.
You got this one.
So, yeah.
That's the only
Do
thing
a
I
video.
can.
It's very appropriate to, like I said, if I'm going out on a farm property, of course I'm wearing jeans and stuff like that. If I'm going on to a luxury home here, I'm gonna dress the part. So you just have to decide, but it does matter because people are gonna look, which honestly, that farmer, I did not get that listing, by the way. I mean, he probably went, this city boy ain't selling my home. He doesn't get it. So, anyway, I think that those are really important things to take into consideration. Let me catch up my slides here. Okay, we're going to skip this just for time's sake, and then we'll come back with any other ahas. Okay. Okay. So what's the goal? Get a signed listing. That's the goal, is to get a signed listing and get them on their way. So as I go through this, I want to explain that there's two methods, or there's probably more, but at least two basic methods. One is, call it a one-step meeting, right? I'm going to bring everything, and that's how they're teaching it here, is I'm going to go onto that appointment. I'm going to have all my comps ready, and then I'm going to close for the sale right then. I do both, but depending on the type of house, if it's a cookie cutter in the neighborhood, it's easy to price it out and all of that, I feel more comfortable with that. If it's all of a sudden 8 acres and they got all these buildings on it and I don't really know the condition of it, I'm like, I really can't price that well until I've locked that property. In that sense, this is what I call a two-step process. So that two-step process is, I'm still going to do the pre-listing pack. I'm going to show up for that meeting, and I'm going to walk the property, preview the property, take notes, and then I'm going to set an appointment while I'm there to come back in like 2 days after I've done my comps. And now that's where I'm going to close for the listing at that point. I felt really comfortable, and I think for probably newer agents, it feels a little more comfortable. And I just told people, they're like, well, just tell me, what do you think my house is worth? Just what's your ballpark? What do you think? My policy is, I don't ever go down that road. I've been dinged on that way too many times.
Scale of 1 to 1 million, somewhere in there.
Yes. And they're like, well, just tell me, what do you think? What? And I'm like, look, I just make it a policy that I'm not going to give a price on that, because then people get locked into that. I won't get locked into it. Look, it's my policy. I'm going to do the research to make sure that when I bring you the numbers, they're accurate numbers. Is that fair? And usually they're going to agree to that. So let's see. What I want to do is, let's see if I can navigate through this thing. So I'm going to show you, do you have your listing presentation done, Michael?
I actually do not have those.
Okay, so let me do, so this is dated. Let's see if I can. Oof. I just mine real quick. Okay. All right, we'll pause here for just a second, and then Melinda, oh,
Yes.
sorry, I was going to ask you something and then I just lost it. Okay, so here in a minute, I'm going to show you this first, and then I'm going to show you how to pull up the listing presentation templates in Command, because they've already got it built out there, and then you can just use theirs to make it. You'll see. So what I did was I had it printed because I wanted to leave something with them. And then I did this actually on my iPad. So usually that's how I did it, either on my computer or my iPad, and I could just run right through this presentation. And then the second piece that I would do is when I have my comps, I would bind my comps. So if I'm coming in for the listing presentation, I'm giving it on my computer or on my iPad. And then when we get to the place of going over pricing, then I'm going to pull out my comps that I've bound, and then I'm going to walk through them step by step. I'm not going to really go through this listing presentation. It's kind of old. Well, it is old. But I'm just giving you my train of thought. And if anybody wants this, I'm happy to share it with you. So this is what I did. Was our team was Wilson Team Experts. So I'm just going to go in a little bit about us. And now we're a full service, so this was important to me. And what I'm doing is addressing issues of other agents, that we're a full service team of selling specialists. Again, it's keywords. I'm not a listing. Anybody can list a house. It's a matter of selling. And I'm gonna talk about that too in my presentation. Like, but the reality is some people can take a listing, they might, and now I'm addressing it, Billy, like you said, some people will take a listing and they'll price it at whatever. So I'm addressing that issue that you're talking about up front, and they'll price it out. And then I'll use a ridiculous number, like, your house is worth 500,000, but they want to list it at $1 million. Like, why would you do that? Even if it's $50,000 or $100,000 too high, that's a problem. So our goal is to get your home sold. So right here, our goal is to get your home sold in the with the most amount of money in the least amount of time. I took it out here, I don't know why, but with the fewest amount of hassles. So I'm laying out a value proposition to them. This is my goal, is to get you the most amount of money, and then we're going to fight for your value. We always, almost always, 95% of the time, we showed up when the appraiser showed up, especially during those times where it was hard to get the value of things. I would show up and I would tell them, I would say most agents do not go out for the appraisal. I'm going to show up for that appraisal, because when we get an offer on your house, if it's too high and it doesn't appraise out, now we end up in a second negotiation. So I'm going to show up, because when it's the difference between $10,000, literally me showing up, shaking that appraiser's hand, maybe I have some different comps. Like, by the way, these are some others that we had. I can answer any questions. Here's a list of all the upgrades that they have. I'm literally presenting that to the appraiser. And that's me telling them on my first slide, I'm fighting for your value. This is us fighting for you to protect your asset and care for your future. So that's me in the very beginning. And then we talk about our team. So if you're not on a team, then you need to I would build out something on this that talks about the value of being an individual agent. What's the value?
You deal with nobody else.
Yep. Yeah. So we talk about a team. Hey, we got everybody that they deal with all of these certain areas, and point out the value of the team. Like, you should. If you're on a team, you should tout the value and benefit of your team. But if you're an individual agent, well, when you get me, you get me. You're not being shifted around and, talking to all these different people or anything like that. And I'm giving you my full attention. So you're going to build that out for yourself. So that's how we did this. And then again, I'm not going to run through the whole presentation. I just want you to get the idea. This is literally what I use to take my listing. So there's 3 areas important to getting your home sold: marketing, condition, and pricing. So first, let's talk about marketing. So then I'm going to go, what do buyers look at? So you can see it's a 2018 report here. But this comes from National Association of Realtors. And this is actually in order. So what am I talking about? Marketing. So I'm showing my confidence. So it says in this order: quality of neighborhood, convenience, affordability, curb appeal, creating space for their family. So what I'm telling my seller is, therefore, because we know that these are the hot things that buyers are looking for, we use this kind of language and terminology in our marketing because they're already thinking that way. Oh, that sounds smart. Okay. So so keep in mind, I'm addressing issues is what I'm really doing as I go through this. So where did they find their home? So again, this stat shows the internet, real estate agents, and yard signs. Those are the top 3. So I'm highlighting those and I'm using data. So especially for my high Cs, I'm addressing data. They like the data, they like the numbers. So again, this is old. Internet, people are going to first find their home on the internet. What we do is with our systems is we're going to, when I'm going to assume this, when we take your listing live, what I'm going to do is we're going to syndicate this out. Everybody has the same opportunity, by the way. It's just saying it. It's all messaging. So for me to say, yeah, this is going to syndicate out to over 400 different websites, and I can name a few of them here. So I'm going to point out, we're going to put a lot of attention because we know that this is where people are finding. So we're going to put a lot of attention on our internet presence. And then I'm going to talk about the real estate agents. So I have communicate. I have a list of all the agents in our in the valley. Do you have a list of all the agents in the valley? Pardon me?
Is it?
No,
Oh, MLS.
it's in the MLS. So all we're doing is, again, we're stretching out and going, I'm going to put you on the MLS. Instead, I'm saying, because we know that real estate agents are going to bring a majority of our buyers, what I'm going to do when we get your house listed is we're going to communicate with all the different agents in the valley, and we're going to let them all know that your house is now available with all the pictures and details and everything like that. What did I just say? Yeah, we just said it differently. And we take those things for granted. Like, yeah, of course we'll put it on the MLS. It's say it, reword that differently, because we know, again, I'm addressing this issue that a majority of these numbers are much higher now. They're coming from the buyer. I mean, the other agents, the majority of them it's going to be another agent that's going to bring that buyer. So we're going to connect with those. Yard signs are important. So I would put my yard sign up here. We have these beautiful signs. I had reflective signs and directionals, and back then we did flyers. So we talk about yard signs. Open houses. So we talked about the open house and the benefit of bringing attention to the open house, regardless of whether it's proven that the percentage is really small that the house sells as a result of the open house. It's a good lead gen opportunity for us. But it's still a great value because it's drawing attention, even if people are driving by and we can't track that down, but they saw that it was I didn't know that. I can't go to the open house, but I'm going to go tell my realtor that I'm interested in this house. So anyway, I'm going to address those. And then I talk about friends and relatives, I used to always, on all my listings, I would sit down with my clients and I would, on their email, I would put a link in their signature to the video of the property that we have. If they didn't know how to do it, I'd be like, let me sit down with you. And I would put it in there. Every time they're sending emails out, it says, hey, my house is for sale. Who do you know? And people would see that and they're like, oh, cool. We never know. So I'm like, hey, I'm turning over every stone. And then I talk about builders, about 4%. And then I'm going to talk about this. Again, Melinda, can you mute?
Sorry.
That's okay. So why would I put this advertising that's 1% in here? This magazines and books and stuff like that.
So people don't try to say, I want to put it in the newspaper.
That's
I want to do a print because they're kind of spending and they don't have a good return.
That's exactly right. So what we're doing is, again, we're addressing the issues up front. So I named all those other things. This is where we're putting the majority of our money, time, and effort into these things. And here's other places. So you can see it's 1% or less than 1%. These used to be really popular. They just don't work right now. So we don't put money into that. And again, I'm addressing the issue of, are you going to put out an ad in the newspaper? Or are you going to put it in one of these magazines? It doesn't work. I would rather put our money and time into the internet and the other agents. What's that?
If you promise to give me another 0.5% on my commission, I promise to.
Right, that would be an option too. Like, hey, if you want that, we'll build it in. And but most people, whenever I do this, they just agree with me, which I want, because I'm wanting to build agreement as we're going through this presentation. I want to ask them questions. I want them to feel confident that I know what I'm talking about. You know, somebody else might go, well, are you putting an ad in there? And they're like, I mean, we could do that. And they're just like, whatever they say, like, yeah, I'll do whatever you say just to get your listing. So we're in charge and we want to take charge. When, how do you know who's in charge of a conversation? Let me ask it that way.
Or ask the best questions.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's who's asking the questions. So some people are like, you know, peacock, I'm in control, you know, look, I'm the guy in charge here. It's just slight, and we're just asking questions, asking follow-up questions, and getting them to think that's who's in charge. We're driving the question, driving the conversation. So then when I get to my marketing plan, so I'm still all on marketing. You know, it's obviously, so I'm addressing all of these things. So we have a very strong, aggressive marketing plan. So I've already told them some of these things. We're going to put it, you know, on all these search engines. We're going to do a remote video tour of your property, high definition photos. And some of these I'm going to address at a little higher level. Social media blast. We're going to blast it out on our social media. We're going to create an agent to agent buzz. At the time, we had an inside sales associate that would actually make calls around neighborhoods and stuff like that, which you can still do too. You could be like, we knock the neighborhood. Whenever we take a listing, we'll knock, 50 doors around yours, and maybe, and then cutting edge technology. So I owned a Matterport, so I use that tool for Matterport. So I use that as a big part of my marketing, and you can see. This thing here, and at this time is when I would literally pull out my iPad and I would show them a sample of it. And to be honest with you, it was my magic weapon, because you know what Matterport is. Everybody knows what Matterport. Okay, so it's a special camera that creates a literal virtual where you can click and just walk through the house and upstairs, downstairs, spin around, look at the ceiling. Very cool. But it costs probably, depending on the time, it was like $700 or $800 to have one of those done if it was a luxury home. So what I did was just bought the camera. And that was my presentation. I was like, these things are so valuable, but I could only do them on the really high-end properties because they're so expensive. Here's what I decided to do, Mrs. Seller, is I decided just to invest in the camera myself. So we just bought a camera, trained somebody to run it, and we have that as part of our team. And now, before we had to do it at above 800,000. Now your house is 350. You get the same benefit that all that luxury. So that I would bring that in. So so then I would break away, explain all of that. Okay, the second thing is condition. So I'm just hitting on these three major issues: marketing, condition, pricing. So then I'm going to talk about the importance of curb appeal. I'm going to talk about staging. We always hired a stager to come out for a consultation, not to fill their house full of stuff. I'm like, I paid $100 or $200, depending on the stager, to come out and do that. But they would tell them, like, hey, you need to clean up these cabinets, you need to paint over here, you need to power wash the front, put some plants up here. I would pay for that part. If they wanted staging, then they would pay for that themselves. But I would say, I'm going to pay for the initial consultation, which is going to be an hour and a half to 2 hours, or whatever that timeline was. Okay, and then this was just a tool. This was just something that we used. We had a thing called WeShare. So we had all these tools and things like that people could just rent out or get for free from us and borrow it. Okay, and then pricing. So now I'm gonna address this. So Melinda, this is where I address your issue that you were talking about. So we're going to talk about the market. don't assume that everybody knows what a buyer's market is, a seller's market is, and what a neutral. So we're going to explain that less than 6 months, seller's market, 7 months, people vary on this, 5 to 7, is a buyer's market. And then I usually say about 6 months is a neutral market. This is the slide that Melinda was talking about. So I call this the eyeball. So market value, if I hit it right at where it should be at market value, I'm going to hit about 60% of the eyeballs that are going to come. If I go below that, like if I went, a little bit lower, you can see the increase in eyeballs. And that's where I'm looking to get multiple offers and things like that. So I would explain that. But if I go up the other way, you can see if I overprice that by 10%, this is how we address that issue up front. All of a sudden, what you said is correct. We're losing all of this first time. They might have went on and bought something else. They're not even going to look. So explain that. What impacts the pricing? Boom. I name all these issues. These are what impacts the pricing. And then I address this. I just leave it in my slides if they're not even considering it as a for sale by owner, but I built mine as for sale by owners. So this was important to me. So I would address the benefit of going ahead and listing with an agent, because 5.5, they're already going to get less. And I go into that in a little bit of detail. So anyway, I address the for sale by owner issue here. I get to this point and I say, okay. Okay, so when we do a market analysis, what we're looking is for 3 major things. We're looking for sold homes, and that's what an appraiser is looking at, that they've actually closed, and this is what they're determining their price on. And then we're looking at active homes. The active homes are properties that are our competition. So I put all of those together, and then pending homes. Pending homes, basically, we don't know what the actual outcome is, but we can kind of analyze that it came on the market 3 days later, it was under contract, it was probably a full price offer more than likely. The only thing I have off on here, because depending on the year when I did this, the other thing that we'll start seeing come up in the next year or two is properties that didn't close. What do we call those? Expires. So these are expired, or these are the properties that the market rejected. That's the language. They're like, we don't want to be one of those. And it's always loud. They're like, no, I don't want to be one of those. And then I explain here that pricing isn't an exact science. Like, we're taking all of the data but it's not exact. And that's why when I give the price, I actually give a range. That's how you do it. Okay. So my son and I don't do this very often at all, but somebody called me and wanted me to list their property. So we listed it. And it was, honestly, it's $325 to $340. So $15,000. So when I explain it to her and I go through all of the comps and everything, I'm like, look, these are the price, this is where it's at. I believe that the low price is $325. The right price is $325. And I think that the high end is $340. So based on that, I feel comfortable anywhere in between. This is going to help you, Billy, I feel comfortable with this anywhere in between. However, if you do choose, and that's where I go through that script, if you do choose the highest price and we don't see an offer within 2 weeks, or we're not getting the showings that we needed, we need to immediately adjust that. We don't want to wait around. We don't want to hold an overprice. That's what the market's telling us. So we're going to adjust that right away. So do you prefer to be at the low end, the high end, or somewhere in between? That's how I close that. And okay, so then at that point, when I get to this point, I've went through my presentation and showing them what we do to get homes sold. And now I've just talked about pricing. So now I'm going to pull my comparables out and I'm going to go through that with them and explain it. So I didn't bring a copy. I meant to bring a copy of that. When you go through your comparables, I suggest, here I get out of the way. I suggest using a highlighter, and you have your subject property and you say, okay, it's 2,000 square feet. It's on a quarter of a lot, has granite. Okay. So now when I'm comparing it, I'm going, okay, well, this house is 2,300. So it's a little bit bigger than yours. This house is 1,800. So it's a little bit smaller than yours, you know, and I'm pointing out the differences of those. But as I'm going through, I'm saying, okay, this one is a quarter lot. Yours is, 0.45. So, or yours is 0.15. So I'm pointing out the differences. I'm pulling up the pictures. I like to show mine actually on a computer because I can really go through and highlight those pictures, but it's nice to leave that comparables with them as well. So I did bind them a copy for them. But my point is, this is really critical, is going through these numbers with them, even though you could very easily go, okay, this one sold for 325, this one sold for 340, this one sold for 300. What do you think? This is where you want to take some time with it. And by the way, up front, I always ask, what do you believe that your house is valued at? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I know, but you have some sort of idea, right? And I'm going to pull that out of them if possible. You do have some sort of idea.
Everybody knows what the cost is. I mean, they have some idea.
They have an idea.
Yeah.
They have an idea. And then some people will tell me like, well, that's why I'm hiring you. I understand, but I'm just trying to get a feel for what you're thinking. I'll try maybe 2 or 3 times. If they're like, no, I want you to bring me the numbers. Okay, fine. But it brings a lot of benefit to you if you know. For example, this other one that this lady owned this house. It's a rental that she owned for like 30 or 40 years. You know, they probably paid, $50,000 at the most for that house, probably.
And they haven't been in it.
And they haven't been in it all these years.
They haven't been living in it. So
They haven't been living in it. And, I'm like, what do you think it's worth? And she's like, I don't know. She says, I looked on Zillow and it said like over 300, but I can't even imagine that. It lets me know where her mindset is. So now I'm bringing really good news. Whenever I bring the comps and I'm like, oh man, this thing is 325 to 340. I know I'm bringing her good news, but also let's just say that it came out to be 275. At least I have an idea. So now I go through the comps. Okay, this one is this. It has granite. It has air conditioning. Yours does not have air conditioning. This one has this. Yours does not. Oh, yours has this, but this one does not. We're going to do a real clear comparable. And then now I'm giving them, okay, based on, and I'm going to go through each one of those like that. Boom, boom, boom. Highlight those high points. In the description, they redid the kitchen, it's updated quartz and whatever. So we're pointing all of those things out. We're causing that person to think. And now you don't want to give your price at this point, or in my opinion, because now you're going to go, okay, based on looking at the facts, the numbers, these comparables, what do you think now? I had a listing that it was a for sale by owner, and they were like at $850,000. And I went in, pulled the comps, which was a little disturbing because I'm like, whoa, okay, they're about $200,000 to $250,000 too high. So I was able to go in there, but they're a for sale by owner. They don't know. And I go in, go through all of the numbers with them. And then I ask that question. Okay, now, based on the stats that you've seen here, the numbers, what do you think? And they're like, I think we're like $200,000 to $250,000 too high. They said it, I didn't.
Let them do it.
And then I got to say, I agree with you. We're looking for reasons for agreement. So I get to say, I 100% agree with you. And a lot of times they'll want to reduce more than what you do. Like, don't fight for that. You got to be really careful of trying to be the hero. Like, no, I can get you $50,000 more. Like, if they come in and they're like, wow, especially if we know what their motivation is, I need to be there by September. They don't want to dink around. Don't mess with them on trying to go like, oh, let's go 25 higher. If they said they want to go 25 lower, go 25 lower. And if it's too low, what'll happen?
Right, the market will dictate.
The market will dictate it. You'll end up with
You
multiple
put a
offers.
house
And
on for $1, you're gonna get what market rate is.
that's right. That's right. So that's how that goes. Let's see. And then, so once I go through those comps, I decide on the pricing. Okay, do you want to be at this, low, medium, in between? I think we should just go right in the center. Let's just go right in the middle and go from there. Perfect. Okay. So now, is there anything else that either myself or another agent that I didn't mention in this?
I like that because that might be something lingering that if you never ask it, they never come up with. Well, one agent told me this.
Yeah.
You can squash it right there or address it or whatever it may be.
Yeah, like mine didn't say that I send out postcards for just listed. I did send out postcards for just listed. And then they would go, well, somebody said something about, like, I've already dealt with, they're not going to ask me about putting it in a newspaper. Right? I've already dealt with that. So they're going to look at it and go, well, well, somebody said that they would send postcards out. Somebody said that they would knock doors. Oh, absolutely. We do all of that too. Sorry, I just hit the high points on our marketing. But yes, we send out just listed and we're going to go knock those doors. And then, so I'm going to address that. Okay. And then I'm going to close, and I've got it written right here. So okay. So what we need to do is, if we haven't already agreed on that, we're going to agree on the price, which we've already done, which is the middle of the road. We need to go ahead and work now. We're going to schedule our stager. We're going to prepare for the photos and video and stuff like that. And then we're going to get your home sold. And then I'm going to tie in the motivation. We're going to get your home sold, get you guys to Florida so that you can really enjoy time with those grandbabies that you're so desiring. How does that sound? That sounds great. Perfect. Go straight for the documents. Here's a key. I know by experience, trust me, I failed like crazy in this area, which was I stayed too long. Don't stay too long, because we're communicating also like, oh, geez, every time I meet with Lionel, it's going to be a 2-hour meeting. Nope. Go in, and especially once you get that document signed, get out of the house. You're done. Just fill it out, and then you can explain to them, okay, the next steps are we're going to schedule all this stuff. We're going to get back to you later. Our assistant will get hold of you and schedule the But once you've signed it, shake their hands. The way that I like to,
Is it just your 4-page doc, just to keep it simple, instead of trying to get in the weeds of everything you could fill out ahead of time?
that's a really good point. So yes, I would do that on my team because I had, but you could do it as an individual agent later yourself. Like, just to get this done, I'm just going to do the basics, and then I'm going to DocuSign the rest of these, to just make it faster. That's a good point. I typically like to fill the disclosures out with them in advance. That, by the way, I put the disclosures in the pre-list. Yes. And then I put a note on it like, hey, these are going to need to be filled out either way. So if you want to get a head start, and now I got a higher commitment level because they've already signed, filled something out. But then, yeah, get out of leave the house and, and then what I was going to tell them this is.
And your agency pamphlet should go on there too.
Your what?
Agency pamphlet. The pamphlet that you print for agency.
Here's what I do. When we sign that document, I'm gonna reach over the table and I'm gonna say, Billy, congratulations, and now you're realtor.
Okay, so it's very clear.
I'm gonna look you right in the eyes and I'm gonna say, congratulations, I am now your realtor. That was emotional, like, because one, you just went through this whole, and then now I'm affirming it with a strong touch, a handshake. and then a verbal right into his eyes. You saw how I did it. It wasn't like, yeah, you're a realtor now. I'm like, really? Congratulations. And now you're a realtor. And you're like, yeah, you are. Because I want you referring to me as like, that's my attorney, that's my dentist, that's my doctor, that's my realtor. They need to see you as like, not, there's a bunch of realtors out there like, no, this is my realtor. And then that's where all the follow-up comes from. Okay, we're at time, so I want to honor that. What questions do you guys have that maybe we didn't address? Or, oh, so if you go into command, and the way I get there, I'm not a genius on this stuff, but I just go to log into agents.kw.com. Once you log in there, it'll pull you right into command. And then you're going to go down to Corinne, are you on there?
I would take this listing template that you offered to send it, because I want to make my own kind of piggyback.
Yes. What I'll do is I'll create this as a PDF. I'll just adjust it as a PDF, and then I'll send it out to you guys. And that way, at least you just have something to go by. Yeah, because you're going to make it your own, and some of it you're going to be like, I don't like that part, or I want to add to it. So, so I'm not able to log in right now, but it's in command and it's under designs. So you'll go into command and then click on designs, and then on so command, designs. When you get into design, you're going to go to the far right side and it says add. It's either add or create new. That's what it's called, create new. And then when you do that, it'll open up a whole list. And this is where you can make all your flyers. This is where you can create postcards, all that kind of stuff. But you'll go under listing and it'll say listing presentations. And then from there, you'll be able to pull that in and it's completely editable right through that system. It's phenomenal. So your buyer presentations in there, your listing presentations in there. The only thing that they don't have, I don't understand why, but there's not a pre-listing packet, but I gave you the overview of how that's going. So, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Congratulations on being here. I really respect you guys so much, because I know that this can start getting weary. You're like, whoa, 20 lessons. That's a lot of information. It's worth it. It really is. Because like I said, once you get a lot of this stuff in, then you got it created. Now you're just moving on and you're focused on the clients. I do want to remind you guys of this. BOLD is coming. BOLD stands for Business Objective of Life by Design. And these are the dates. So I would put it into your calendar, at least to be at first step. Cody Gibson is like the top. Like, it's amazing that we got Cody Gibson. He actually lives in Portland, but he was one of the very first BOLD coaches when we came out with this. And oh my gosh, that's 20 years ago. That's so weird. 20 years ago? 2004.
Tony.
Yeah. But he's been teaching it this long, and he is a phenomenal. He's got one of the largest teams in the nation, and you're going to love it. So I would plan on going. I would just get signed up and plan to attend that. It's going to be phenomenal.
Any way to catch any of those on Zoom?
Nope. It's
Hey,
live
Lionel?
in class. Yes.
I have a two-part question for you, real quick. One is, how many comps do you try to get in your CMA? So when you're presenting it,
Okay.
sometimes it's
so-
hard to get any, sometimes it's easy to get way too many.
Okay.
So
Okay, let me answer that part. So I usually put, the question is how many comps do you put in there? I'm looking for 3 to 5. Three to 5 of each topic. So like 3 actives, if they're available. Sometimes there's just 1 active. So I'm looking for about 3 is a good number if I have good solid comps. 3 or 5 solds, 3 or 5 active, and then if there's under contract, then I add those in there as well. So I like the house that I did the other day, I was saying it became really clear. There was one active, it was under contract. There was 3 really clear that were like on that street. So I went with 4 comps total. I had 3 sold, 1 active. If you go too much, then it really confuses it. I'm looking for my best comps. So I would rather have less than more. What was the second part of the question?
Second part is, so that sounds kind of like me. I think I try to go for no more than 6. But
Yep.
when I have a house in maybe a neighborhood or a subdivision or something, I then often call the listing agents, if I can find them on those 6 or 5 houses, and say, where did your buyer come from? Because these are
Nice.
sold. And then I say, where did your buyer come from? Were they from out of state? Were they upsizing? Were they downsizing? Were they the neighbors across the street? Did they need a place for their family? What was the deal? And then I let the seller know where those 5 houses buyers came from in those comps, if I can find out,
Yep.
whatever I can find out.
Well, I love that you're doing that because that's just above and beyond. And that really, again, builds confidence, shows your client like, hey, I'm working for you. I'm figuring it out. I'm turning over the rocks to figure out the pricing. So, okay, I do have another appointment, so I've got to run. And great job on Wednesday. I'm a little biased, but it's my son-in-law teaching, Zach Olson. He is amazing. He's an incredible buyer's agent, or he does both listings and buyers, but he's phenomenal at buyers. So he'll be teaching on Wednesday. And then, oh, you know what? Wednesday, I'm pretty sure, and Friday are going to be Zoom only. So Crystal just had some surgery and she's teaching Friday. So she's actually going to, so I just don't want you to show up and be expecting an instructor here. I mean, you could, and then just watch it on this. We can certainly just, and they probably will. But if you're at home and you're going to watch from home or wherever, then just know that Wednesday and Friday will be Zoom only, the next 2 coming up.
Okay.
Great speakers, great topics. So plan to finish strong with this. All right.
See you later,
All right.
Lionel. Thank you.
You're welcome. See you later.